What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Killmark Collectors. I'm Brandon, and today I'm going to be joined by Big Skillet from Big Skillet Gaming. You can check out his YouTube channel up in the card here, wherever it is. And we're going to be talking about the 3v3 mode that we've been getting to play around with for the last couple of weeks. Now, this is going to be a little bit of a review. We're going to talk briefly about that, kind of where it stands and what we think about it at the beginning. But then we are going to actually talk about some ways that we would love to see the game evolve, or the game mode evolve, and really give Eve Echoes a little bit more juice, if you will, in terms of the variety and the way that people can play the game. So we're going to be starting with kind of the immediate things that we want to fix before this new mode goes fully live. Then we'll talk about some of the short-term kind of updates and changes that we'd like to see, and then our pie in the sky way down the line, kind of big roadmap types of things. So either way, I hope you guys really enjoy this. It is more of a podcast style. There are going to be some visuals in here, but most of it is just kind of us talking back and forth. Obviously, we don't have a ton of gameplay footage that we can show for stuff that we're just kind of hoping makes it in. But either way, I hope you guys enjoy this. And without further ado, let's undock and get started. Big Skillet, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing well. Thanks, Scipio. I appreciate you having me on, and I'm doing better than my son. My son broke his wrist today, so.
Yeah, you were telling me about that, man. I'm really sorry to hear that.
I mean, I have two boys, and it's just a matter of time why one of them is going to break something. So.
Yeah, right. Well, I'll just hope that they're not as accident prone as I was as a kid. Your medical bills will not be very nice if they are. So.
My mom was just telling me the same thing, you know. So
right, what's the old curse? May your kids be just like you, or something?
Yeah, pretty much. And yeah.
That's funny. Well, I wish him the best and a speedy recovery. But hopefully it's nothing too serious.
Thank you. I appreciate it. No, it seems just a break.
Yeah. Well, moving on to happier topics. We've obviously been getting to play around with the DIR reflections and really kind of experimenting over the last 2-3 weeks, something like that, with some of the game modes and all of that, or I should say game mode that we've got
right
here. You've done some streaming with it. I know we've been on together. Let's just start with kind of, what are your thoughts? Is this a good thing for Echoes? Are you enjoying it? What's kind of your impression here of the new game mode to start with?
I think it's the greatest thing in the game since sliced bread. I mean, it's awesome. It's what I would have liked to have seen roll out at the beginning, but it's great because it gives people the flexibility to try a bunch of a range of different ships and fits, and it's really kind of a precursor to actual PvP. And that's what I like. It's really a nice testing ground, and I'm excited for it. It's really going to be my favorite mode once it's fully released, and hopefully at a conducive time for me to actually play it.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, that's I think one of the nice things that you just mentioned is it's kind of a nice training ground where you can test out some fits and really get to, I'll say, just kind of get to experiment, right, with some of the ships that you probably wouldn't want to normally undock in a PvP scenario. It's just that fun kind of bite-sized combat that I think a lot of people really are missing in Echoes right now.
Yeah, and I think it's going over very well with the community, if I had to guess, because you can get in a match in like 3 seconds. People are ready to play it, and which is a great thing for the game. In my opinion, it can almost be a game on its own. It really could.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, and especially, having played some other games, I know you've been playing Brawl Stars. I've been playing a little bit of Mech Arena. I mean, those are games where you jump in and you immediately, to your point, you have a game, you have a match, whatever we want to call it, and you kind of get that little adrenaline rush, right? Now,
yep.
It's Diet Eve, I guess, in some ways, and that there's really no risk, right? I mean,
I like that. That's a great term. I love it. Diet Eve.
I mean, that's kind of what it is, right? Because there's no risk.
Right.
There's all of this, which is great. I think that there's a lot to be said about this, and especially given the ability to play and, you know, just kind of YOLO a ship and not worry about it. Again, I think to your point, it can be a game in and of itself, and it's one that a lot of people are very happy with. But I think that there are some changes, and you mentioned earlier, you know, this is kind of a test, and we're waiting to see what the full version brings. So why don't we kind of shift a little bit from what it is now into what we want it to be at launch.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned one of the big issues with the time zones and kind of the windows that they have open to play. But I mean, why don't you tell me a little bit more about that and kind of some of the struggles you've had there?
Well, that's been the most frustrating part for me is, you know, for an East Coast U.S. player, the times are just not conducive for me to be able to even practice and play. It's if I, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's something like 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. and then I think it goes 3 to 5 p.m. and then it's 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. in the morning. And I'm sorry, but I'm working or sleeping and or getting ready for work, working for the first two shifts. And then the third shifts, I'm pretty much in bed. So it's, you know, it's really disappointing that they were not more thoughtful in their approach. Would have liked to have seen that extend those, you know, the times on that. But that's one of the biggest drawbacks I can see so far. And one of the devs, I think it was Foxtel, has already said, and you know, these are not going to be the times when they release the mode. So I felt better about that because if these were the times, I think my career in Echoes would be pretty much over at that point.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah, they're not friendly, and I mean, you know, again, to your point, I'm 2 hours behind you, so I can at least play at night a little bit, but it definitely is a challenge, and I think that they kind of ran into this with the faction Wargames the first time around, and I was a little surprised that they didn't learn from it, because I remember posting a rather I'm going to say rather heated post in the content creator group when
No, just kidding.
I am a bundle of sunshine and joy. I don't know what
you are compared to a few for sure.
That's fair. But I mean, just, you know, it was really disappointing when the original Faction War games came out, cuz like, I mean, I, you know, took a half day from work and all this stuff, and I was so excited to play, and then it's like, oh, by the way, you can't actually play until this time, right?
Yeah.
So I was hoping that they would learn a little bit from that. It doesn't seem like they did, at least in the beginning. To your point, I think Foxtails was mentioning that, or Foxtail, I'm not sure exactly what his name is, unfortunately. But I think he was mentioning that we'll get some different time zones, which I'm really excited about. I don't know how they're going to do it. I mean, would you rather see it open at all hours, or do you think that they need to stay with the windows, kind of like what they have with Faction War Games now?
It was actually Tailless Fox, and I apologize to him for
Tailless Fox. Okay,
I'm getting his name wrong.
We were both horribly wrong.
Bad,
I apologize.
Yeah, very bad. But here's what I would say: have it open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just make it open. It's a new game mode within the game. There's no reason to curtail it, right? Because as we all know, the only reason why they're doing it is to slow the decay of the value of the faction debris, right? Mm-hmm. That's the only real reason I can see that they would do it, because all the modules you can get outside maybe the drones, they've you know, they're all kind of worthless for the most part. And the way I see it is everything in this game is going to devalue to about 3% of its starting price because of the way the game is designed. So just concede that fact. Give us the mode so we can play when we want. Because it might, like we said, you know, this could be a game in and of itself. It is a game within a game. It's an awesome mode for the game, and to force me to play on it at certain times is just silly. It's short-sighted, and let's just make it wide open.
Yeah, I agree. I think, you know, if, especially at the beginning, I think it would be great to have it open at all times. If they start running into issues where there's long player queues and things like that, then, you know, maybe we can thin it down a little bit. So it's, you know, you have like 3, 5 or 6 hour windows or something, you know, so there's at least a little bit to kind of make players play at the same time. But yeah, I agree. I think it would be awesome to have it open at all times. The other thing with that, though, I think is the matchmaking, and that's kind of my big thing. I know we've talked about it a little bit. We'd love to see, or I'd love to see, like a 3v3 where you can do just cruisers or cruisers and below, and battle cruisers and above, or maybe have a point system. I think Damon Zell was posting about that, and having like a battleship is worth 5 points and a frigate's worth 1 point, and you can only have a total of like 8 points in your fleet or something like that, right? I think that could be a really interesting thought. But I mean, what do you think? How would you like to see kind of the matchmaking balanced a little bit?
See, I personally don't like the point system because it really doesn't lend itself to what normal PvP would be like. Think about when you go out on roams. Yeah, you do have some mixed fleets, but you see a lot of scepter-only fleets. You see a lot of cruiser-only fleets or faction cruiser-only fleets. And with that in mind, I would like to see it maybe like battle cruisers and cruisers in one instance of this mode, and then battleships only, and then maybe another option to have, maybe cruisers down, cruisers all the way through the frigates, because I think you want ships that are comparable and have some semblance of a way of destroying the other ships, right? A cruiser's not going to kill a battle. If you get 2 battleships in one cruiser, the odds of beating 3 battleships are greatly reduced. So,
well, and even just in the maps that we've played or the matches that we've played, if you get like a Cinnable, it's going to get just wrecked first off because everybody targets it because everybody knows it's basically a free kill that you can then move on to the other stuff. But I actually like the idea of doing the battle cruisers and cruisers. I think that would be a really fun way to kind of break things up a little bit.
I think it would be great because, the fact that there's no faction battle cruisers, it really puts the faction cruisers on a more even playing field with them. I think it would be very fair. It would be interesting as well.
Even just some of the co-ops with their E-War stuff could make it really interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of things they can do. And to me, that's what I would like to see them release first in this mode, would be the battle cruiser and cruiser together only mode. That's what I'm rooting for. I don't know that they'll do that or not, but that would be my vote.
Yeah, I'm saving up just in case they don't, so that I can actually buy a faction battleship. But I'm hoping that they let me play with my cruisers a little bit longer. So
well, I think people will start to feel that if it is all inclusive, that it's I don't know, like the richest players win. It's the faction battleships that are constantly winning. The triple nightmares that we saw a couple weeks ago. It's just like when you see you're facing up against that, even if you are with 3 other faction battleships, it's an incredible challenge. So and not everybody, like you said, not everybody has faction battleships. I think it'd be better. And it brings more into the newer players into the game, into that mode if they did limit it to cruisers and battle cruisers.
Yeah, for sure. Because it's tough for somebody who's only been playing a month and is T6 to jump into that mode when they know they're going to be fighting 3 faction battleships or 3 APOC strikers, right, or whatever it is. So I agree. I think that would be a great way to also make it more accessible to a lot more players. Well, so let's kind of move past what we have right now and get a little creative, think a little bit outside the box. I know for me, I've enjoyed the game mode, but I can see it getting very stale very quickly if it is just kind of what we have now, just expanded a little bit. I think that one thing, having played again some other games, and again Brawl Stars and Mech Arena being some of the big ones that are coming to mind right now, there's always more than just a team deathmatch, right? And I think that for me, the thing I would really love to see is some additional game modes. I was kind of just brainstorming earlier. I think like a escort the hauler type of thing, or even like a capture the flag where you have to like go loot a container and bring it back or something. Some game modes like that I think could be really fun. But what do you think about the way that we would like to see some additional maybe diversity or play styles incorporated into some of these matches?
Well, I definitely like the idea of the capture the flag or protect the hauler. That's a pretty good idea. I think you're right. I think the team deathmatch is only going to take you so far. You could do a 5v5 and that would expand it a little bit. And maybe that changes some things. You could do that as well. I would like to see, and I don't know that for sure that this would be considered a short term or maybe a long term. It really just depends on on the mood of the devs. But I would really like to start seeing some tournaments. They could hold tournaments maybe once a month with this, and just and do that like round robin or tournament bracket style, where you get in and play, and then you have your time slot, and hopefully you can show up, or I don't know how you would navigate that, but that would be nice. Or
yeah, that'd be awesome.
I really like the idea of that, and like in Brawl Stars, they'll do. This is really cool too, where they can have an event that if you win 9 matches, you like like today you play 9 matches. If you win, if you win 9 matches, you get a free skin or whatever. You know what I mean? They do that a lot in other games, where they just call it a tournament, and you can lose up to 3 times, but you got to win 9 out of 12. And if you do, you get something, and you get little rewards, along the way. So
right.
I think there's a lot that they can
awesome.
do with them. Yeah, I think there's a lot they can do with this mode. It's going to give them a lot of flexibility to be more of a traditional mobile game, right?
Yeah.
Where you said.
And I agree with that completely. I hadn't even thought about the events side of it. But you're absolutely right. I mean, I obviously don't want it to become like, buy ticket entries or something like that with
right.
Plex or something like that, But I think to be able to have some cool events to really get people galvanized and get together. I mean, I know I used to organize tournaments with our corporation and with our alliance and all of that stuff. People always turned out. It was always a great time. We had a ton of fun. I think the first frigate tournament that we did way back when, we had something like, I want to say like 50 participants or something. I mean, wow. It was nuts. So I think there's definitely demand for that sort of thing. And I love the idea that you have to win a certain number of matches or, whatever. That just, that gets me excited, to think about how that could look and how that could play out. That really sounds like a lot of fun.
It is. As a matter of fact, there's a tournament this weekend in Brawl Stars.
You going to be playing in it?
Absolutely. In this one,
nice.
And they have different levels of tournaments. They have, I would say, 2 a month, if I had to guess. Mm-hmm. And this one, I think, is you win 7, and you get a pin that you can use, which is like an emote, basically, sort of.
Okay.
But sometimes you get skins. Sometimes you get, could be like Plex, or you can get temporary skins. Would be something, and maybe if you make it to the 9th win, you get a permanent skin. I mean, there's so many different things they could do with it. Give out tickets for the missions if people want those. Either you do the mission, or you can sell it on the market. I mean, it gives them a lot of flexibility on making this mode as good as they want to do it.
Yeah. Well, and I love that idea. And I think the other thing too that would be really interesting is being able to give out not just individual rewards, but also maybe some of the corp rewards, like they did with, I think like a video contest a while back and some other stuff. I think that would be really fun to see them kind of galvanize the community a little bit. And to your point, they could do it with different levels. So it's like you can only use up to a T7 ship or, something like that to help make it, again, a little bit more accessible for newer players.
Yes, I totally agree. It doesn't have to be even faction cruisers. They could, they could make it specifically non-faction cruisers. There's just so much flexibility. This is, once again, another great opportunity for them to shine. Right?
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
And they've had so many opportunities in the past, and they've continually dropped the ball. So I hope they don't do that here. They really, this could be a game changer. I don't know that it would bring back a lot of players, but it could, or at the very minimum, it could bring in some new players. If they start advertising.
I think you definitely have the ability to bring in some new players. I know I would be super pumped because it would mean that there's a lot of really cool content that I feel like I could make on here. You know, that's a little selfish maybe as a content creator, as a YouTuber. But I really think this would be a lot of fun, and especially if they were able to build on some of this stuff. I would love to see this type of mode really kind of bring out more creativity and more players into the universe.
Yep. And one thing that I think it really does is it brings out the competitive nature in everyone, right? And there's nothing in the game right now that really truly does it.
Yeah.
You know, the CTAs don't do it. You know, the small fleets don't do it because it's so slow and it's inconsistent and so on and so forth, that this will be the first real way to introduce a competitive nature into the game, in my opinion. I mean, I could be way off base. It's late.
Yeah, you're good. I mean, I think that you're right. And I think that even just looking in the content creator group, we have seen, you know, people going back and forth. I think it was Phoenix Tassadar and B8KD. They were going back and forth and kind of joking with each other about, oh, our team beat you, and you know, or maybe it was Gengar. I can't remember who it was. But they were kind of going back and forth and laughing about, we beat you, or we were the number one and you guys lost to us, or whatever it was. And I would love to, again, to your point, have a little bit more of that type of competitiveness and community engagement overall with leaderboards and stuff like that.
Yeah, this is totally a brand new direction for the game, and it really can be somewhat endless if they do it right. They execute right. They've had some really good plans in the past, but they haven't been able to execute very well. I feel like a sportscaster, you know. You know, they're just not executing very well, and it's really frustrating from a player perspective and a content creator's perspective that, you know, you see something can be really good, and then they fumble the ball at the goal line, and it just doesn't go anywhere. So I'm really hopeful that they do. For me, this is sort of my last ditch effort to stay within the game. You know, I've been, you know, my game time's been winding down severely over the last, you know, really since the holidays, and having been sick. It's just, you know, if this doesn't go in the direction I'm hoping it does, then it'll probably, you know, be time to move on for me. But I'm hopeful. I am really hopeful because it is a great game. It's just, it's not being managed very well, to be frankly honest. That's what I would say if I was it's just not being managed very well.
No, I mean, I agree with you. And I think that the way that this mode goes will dictate that for a lot of people, unfortunately, because again, you're right. I mean, there has been a lot of back and forth with the community over balance, over, you know, the introduction of new content, the way that new content has been portrayed. And it is, I don't want to say disheartening, but it is challenging as a player to get excited about going on my 500th interceptor roam, right? I want to fly a new ship. I want to have some versatility, but there's no reason to, because, you know, the tactics are just, they are what they are, right?
Yeah.
So I agree. You know, I'm probably a little bit behind you in the, you know, if this doesn't do it, I'm kind of over Eve Echoes. I don't think I'm quite there yet, but I think that you're not alone in, you know, kind of feeling like if this doesn't go well, or if this doesn't kind of give us that extra little something, I think a lot of people might be about done and ready to move on, especially with a bunch of other really cool games coming out later this year. So, you know,
the next
it unfortunately
days,
kind of is what it is.
Yeah, the next 60 days is really going to dictate what happens to this game. You know, we have this mode coming out. We have, in 2 months, we have the huge balance update. And between those two things, if they don't go the way the players believe that they should go, there'll be nobody playing this game. I mean, that's just unfortunately the hard facts, and it would really have been solely on NetEase's shoulders to have had such an amazing opportunity to get a well-established, you know, 15 to 18-year-old game at the time when they took it, this momentous task on. And I'll give them a little credit. They didn't maintain the status quo. They did change up a lot of things. But at the same respect, they did it, and now they made the game so much harder for them to make balance updates because they can't rely on what CCP has done in the past. It's totally on them, and they've already admitted to us several times that they're utilizing a team of developers that don't have the experience on this type of this level of a game. So you couple those things together, and you have a recipe for what we're looking at today, which is really, unfortunately, like a 90. If I had to guess, a 90% reduction in players in the last 12 to 18 months. Which is disappointing.
I don't know what the numbers are, but I definitely can just anecdotally say that it's been a little rough. CTA attendance is definitely down and all that stuff. But I'm hoping, again, I'm really hopeful that this thing kind of rejuvenates it. So, I mean, I guess the one last thing that I'll ask here, and you mentioned the 60 days is the next 60 days is kind of big, and we're putting a lot of this into that 60-day bucket, with hoping that we see some of the game modes and the events to again kind of revitalize the community a little bit. What about after that? Like what kind of pie in the sky stuff would you like to see? I know for me, the big thing, and I kind of mentioned this in a previous video when the ship rental thing was first announced, but I'd love to be able to see players actually be able to rent their ships to other people in this faction Wargames mode. So, for example, I can go try out a fully fitted Balgorn before I go out and spend 4 billion ISK or 6 billion ISK or whatever it's going to cost.
That's better. Right? I was say, if you get it for 4 billion, let me know.
I might find a guy with a trench coat on.
A guy who knows a guy.
Exactly, right? It fell off the back of a truck type of thing.
Yep.
But no, so I mean, I would love to see that where players can rent their ships out. They've got, it seems like, a lot of the infrastructure to do that between the current ship rental process, the contracting process, the insurance, even, with the locks on the timers. So you could, like lock something for 12 hours while you rent it to somebody or, whatever it is. It feels like they have a lot of the infrastructure. They just need to put the pieces together. I mean, what's your thought on that? Do you think that's a good idea, or is that kind of something that could be problematic, we'll say?
I don't know. I don't think it's a bad idea. It's the first time I'm hearing it, so I'm trying to digest it. But it sounds like a good idea because, like you said, there's no other way you can play with these ships that you don't have access to because you don't have the ISK, right? Once you start stepping up beyond, to faction battleships, the cost quadruples compared to a faction cruiser. Just making it up, but. And a lot of people just
even
don't.
A faction cruiser is still 1 billion ISK. I mean,
right.
It's not a small investment for a lot of players.
You're right, and it's not. And for some of the players that don't get to play every day, or when they do play, it's only for an hour at a time. It's difficult for them to make that kind of ISK and over a relatively short period of time. So I think the ability to rent out somebody else's ship and is brilliant. I think it's a cool idea. I'd be for that.
Yeah, I think it again, like anything, it would need to go through some fine tuning and all of that. But I think the idea of it, and again, being able to just say, even for 12 hours or 10 hours or, again, like what they have the ship rental program now of, I don't need this ship for 24 hours. I can, give it to my NPCs. It just feels like it could be a fun way. It could reinvigorate maybe some some industry folks, because they may say, hey, I can make some decent money. My return on investment is that in a month's time, I'll, by renting out this Balgorn, I'll have paid, I'll have made twice the ISK for it or something like that. I think that could be a really fun kind of dynamic and mini game within the game. But I mean, again, like I said, it could be abused and all that fun stuff. So there would definitely need to be some checks and balances in there. But I feel like that could be a really fun way to really extend the life of the game and let people, again, fly the new shiny that they want to try out.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. It's you never know how it's kind of like buying a car before you actually drove it. You really want this vehicle. You've heard a lot about it, and guess what? You can go test drive it and see if it's something that you really like. Maybe you want to go from a Mercedes Benz to a truck. A huge difference, and that's what I think the ship rental program, like you were saying, player v player, it does give people access to ships that they may never be able to get just because of their the time constraints to play the game, and maybe they're only playing because they want to play faction war games.
Right, exactly. And at that point, then you still are having those players inject ISK into the economy. They may get the rewards, they may sell the rewards so they can go rent a new ship or whatever it is. I think there could be a lot of really cool, again, mini games or market economics. I don't know what the right term for that type of thing would be, but I think it would be a lot of fun.
Yep. I totally agree.
So, well, I know we're kind of bumping up here on the 30-minute mark, or we've kind of maybe already surpassed it. I'm not sure yet. But anything else that you would like to see in this game mode, or just in kind of the macro view of where this mode could go in the next, call it 6 months, whether it's short term, long term, anything that we missed and you want to talk about?
Well, I think if they don't do it in the first 90 days of release of this mode, I think it's definitely something they can do in the long term is having the tournaments, but have them based on corporations. So have corporation level or alliance. Probably more appropriate might be alliance level tournaments in this mode. They can 100% do that, and it would also give a lot of people the flexibility to to fleet up with anybody in their alliance, and you could do that, and then have some once again the winners could be just simply. Potentially skins. I don't really see it that way. I think maybe like the player medals or something to make your avatar stand out in local. Maybe frame it, give it a cool frame or something to show you won a tournament. I think that probably should be sort of the end goal of this mode, is to have maybe monthly tournaments or once a quarter, where you bring it into let's just call it alliance level tournament. I think that's the big picture down the road. This is going to be the wow factor for everyone.
Yeah, no, I love that idea. I love seeing in local like the medals that people have, and I'll just kind of be curious like which one is it. At this point, I think I recognize most of them, but it would be really fun to again see like, oh, I'm a May tournament winner, or I'm a June tournament winner, or whatever it is. I think that could really be a fun kind of bragging rights type of thing that a lot of people would be very willing to invest a lot of time to playing the game and really getting back into it for.
I agree, and like I said, this is I'm praying. I'm beyond hopeful. I'm praying that this mode turns out to be what I hope it will be, because I think it's just going to be brilliant. It's. I know I'll be playing as often as they'll allow me to play it, because it's going to be the most fun. It's going to be PvP on demand. We've already seen the matches are short and quick. They last 5 to 6, 7 minutes typically, unless you get somebody that's, staying far away because whatever. But but for the most part they take about 5 minutes, and who can't spend a half hour playing 5 or 6 matches. I think it's a great addition to the game. I just pray that they execute on it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, man, I really appreciate you joining me today. This was a ton of fun to talk and brainstorm. Before we go, you really do a lot of live streaming. So, what's kind of your schedule, or where can people find you to be doing, to be joining some of your live streams and maybe jump into some of these faction war games and stuff like that, or Brawl Stars? I'm not sure what you're really streaming these days, but where and when can people find you?
Typically, I have been streaming actually tonight, right about now, on Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But really, until the DIR, or I should say it's probably stands for direct reflection mode, is fully released, and I know when the times are and so on and so forth, I'm probably going to hold off doing any more live streaming until then, because like I said, it's really going to me, that's the make it or break it for me to continue playing the game. If it's not at a time where I can actually enjoy it every day in the evening, then I think that's probably it for me. So, but I'm working on some.
Well, let's hope that's not the case.
I know I'm really seriously. I really want to keep playing. It's I played Eve Online when it was released. I played 7 years straight. I love the game, but I don't love the way they've executed on this game. It could have been done way better. So, but like I said, I'm hopeful. I want to keep playing because I have a lot of friends that I talk to, that we play with, and I want to keep doing that. And I'm hopeful because I really think this is live streaming 101 is both the war games. It's perfect for live streaming. There's not many other content in this game that you can actually live stream. So, from selfish reasons, I hope they get it right too. But I'm working on some Brawl Star stuff and kind of working on shifting gears. It's a little slower than I would like it to be, but working.
I totally feel you there, man. I totally feel you. But well, guys, if you are wanting to check out more of Skillet's content, he has some great videos on carriers and capital ships. He's a cat pilot. No, not saying you should go hunt him or anything like that, or you may not see him.
Why not?
Apparently. But go check that out if you want to see some of that type of content, or again, if you're interested in Brawl Stars or some other games, be sure to check out his channel. Skillet, thanks so much again for joining me. Really do appreciate it. We're going to sign off now, but if you guys want to, be sure to leave a comment down below with what you would like to see in the new 3v3 mode. We'd love to have the conversation there, as well as in Discord or, again, in game. Let's just jump in and let's start blowing stuff up together, right? Should be a good time.
Absolutely. Thanks, Skippy. I really appreciate you having me on. Thank you so much.
Yeah, man, absolutely. So anytime, and I'll definitely be happy to return the favor anytime you have a brainstorm that you want to have on your channel.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching. Have a great night, and until next time, fly safe.